No matter how often we fly, the wonder of air travel never ceases to astound us. Planes are becoming ever more sophisticated and intelligent, and the in-flight experience has come on leaps and bounds since the early days of airliners. We've done all the research and asked the expert cabin crew, pilots, airline execs to explain everything we've always wanted to know about flying. Planes fly high for speed. Commercial planes generally travel at a lofty 35,000 feet, 10,668 meters. That's because the more a plane ascends, the thinner the air becomes, so an aircraft can travel faster and more cost-efficiently at a greater altitude. But it isn't a case of the higher the better. If an aircraft travels too high, above about 45,000 feet, there is insufficient oxygen, and this can cause problems with the engine. Calculating flight time is complicated. Working out flight time, which is measured from gate to gate, requires complex software to calculate all the variables including distance, altitude, weather forecast, to work out head or tail winds, and air traffic congestion along the way. Despite increasingly sophisticated planes, flight times have increased in recent decades. This so-called schedule padding gives airlines a little extra time in case of delays. U.S. air traffic controllers are responsible for 2.9 million passenger safety. In the USA, 14,000 FAA air traffic control specialists deal with the safety of 2.9 million airline passengers every single day. Different departments manage planes as they travel at altitude, approach the airport, or take off and land. The latter is always done from the airport's control tower. Air traffic controllers issue landing and takeoff authorization and instructions, and they are responsible for warning pilots of nearby planes or potentially hazardous conditions. Flight attendants have a variety of roles. Before you board the plane, the flight attendants will have carried out a safety check and ensured the plane is clean and tidy. They then welcome passengers on board and prepare and serve food and drinks. A lot of time is spent ensuring passengers are comfortable and at ease, and in rare cases, a flight attendant might have to carry out first aid or restrain a passenger. Flight attendants are paid once the plane doors close. In the case of a few airlines, cabin crew are only paid for their flight hours, meaning their pay is based on when the flight leaves and arrives at each gate. A recent TikTok video by a flight attendant brought this practice to light, with others confirming the case. That means that other duties, like boarding and cleaning the plane, aren't counted as part of their work hours and pay. Speedy boarding, anyone? The tracks left behind by planes are called contrails. Those white tracks in the sky are called contrails, and there's some science behind them. When a plane is in flight, its hot exhaust mixes with the surrounding atmosphere which, at high altitude, is much colder and thinner than the plane's emissions. This causes the water vapor in the exhaust to freeze, leaving icy streaks across the sky. Pilots often fall asleep on the job. There's no need to panic about this one. It's known as controlled or in-seat rest, and it means that one pilot will snooze, usually for no longer than about 45 minutes, while their co-pilot takes full responsibility of the controls. The resting period will be agreed in advance, during times of low activity, and the co-pilot will be properly briefed and the rest of the crew should be informed. The oxygen masks only provide up to 15 minutes of air. If cabin pressure falls to a certain point, masks will drop immediately, and there is an oxygen reserve that will last around 12 to 15 minutes. That may not sound like much, but don't worry. Should this occur, the pilot will ensure the plane is brought to a safe altitude as quickly as possible. Your lost luggage gets auctioned off. It's the ultimate travel disaster. You arrive at your destination airport to find your bag was lost in transit and is nowhere to be seen. Most lost luggage is reunited with its owner within a few days, and there will usually be some monetary compensation if the bag has well and truly vanished. But what happens if that luggage is never claimed? There are lost luggage auctions which hawk the abandoned goods to eager punters ready for a bargain. Babies born in U.S. airspace become U.S. citizens. This has only happened on a few occasions, and it's a real gray area. The newborn citizenship depends on several factors. In some parts, it pertains to the airspace occupied when the baby was born. The states, for example, recognize any baby born on U.S. soil, including airspace, as an American citizen. According to the UN, though, a baby born in transit should become a citizen of the country that the airline is registered to. In other cases, the child may adopt their parents' nationality. Lightning can strike planes, but it often goes unnoticed. Typically, a bolt will hit an extremity, such as a wing tip or the nose, and the current will travel through the plane's metal shell before leaving from another point, the tail, for example, explains Johnny. Once in a while there's superficial exterior damage or minor injury to the plane's electrical systems, but a strike typically leaves little or no evidence. In fact, you might not even notice it. The seatbelt sign is a communication tool between pilot and passenger. The seatbelt sign is your captain's way of communicating with you, says Leandy of whistlestops.co.uk. Their primary concern is passenger safety, so if the captain sees turbulence coming, the seatbelt sign will be switched on as a warning to you and the crew to prepare themselves. Of course, they do their best to avoid the bumpy air, so if the sign is on, but you don't have any turbulence, then your captain did a great job of deviating around the weather. Or he or she forgot to switch it off. Pilots and co-pilots eat different meals. It very rarely happens, but to prevent the chances of both getting food poisoning, many pilots and co-pilots opt to eat different in-flight meals. In 1975, the pilots were the only ones on a Japan Airlines flight from Tokyo to Paris not to get food poisoning. A similar incident happened on a Concorde flight between London and New York in 1984.